Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. My pleasure to introduce this conversation on the Goodman Award for Excellence in Strategy, hosted by IASP. Um, I would like to start by making sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to the primary purpose of the Goodman Award. That is to recognize distinction in the practice of strategy management. And I want to underscore the word practice more than anything else. I'll be talking a little bit more about that. In alignment with the IASP body of knowledge, which talks about formulation, transformation, strategy execution, strategy engagement, and governance, these are the exact 5 dimensions that we look at in any of the applications that we receive. And so what really makes the award meaningful is that it does not just reward a document or a plan, but what it really does is that it recognizes strategy as a discipline, as a practice, one that is primarily designed, embedded within the fabric of the organization, well executed, measured, and continuously improved. That's what we really look for. And just a quick one on the judging process itself. Now, I'm here with my colleagues. Very happy to have worked with them for several years on the judging process for the Goodman Award. We've always aimed for this process to be as rigorous and consistent as possible. Every one of the 5 dimensions that we look at, we do evaluate the entries based on 5 criteria. That is how coherent the approach is, the effectiveness of the approach. Was there any learning that the organization used out of that to improve innovation, and how sustainable that practice is? And so the question is never only did the organization do something that is impressive or outstanding, but we look much deeper on how coherent the approach was. Did it produce real impact? What was actually learned and improved? And it was the model and the practice truly sustainable. And the strongest entries that makes those answers clear are the ones that are really worthy of the award. They do not force judges to search for evidence. And that is something you really be cautious about. Make your evidence as clear as possible, as explicit as possible, and as convincing as possible. Now, that should also address all the 5 dimensions along the 5 criteria, because that's how the applications gets scored. And so the material, the supporting documents and material that you provide should really emphasize that. And excellent entries, this is critical. You need to demonstrate authenticity. They need to be authentic. They need to be evidence-based, visually clear for sure, and supported by material that speaks to the 5 dimensions and the 5 criteria. Again, the purpose of the award is all about excellence in the practice of strategy. But I would also add to that it does have to foster continuing excellence in the practice of strategy management. It does stimulate innovation, and definitely it's something that will introduce a process of continuous learning to the organization. From that, I would like to just talk a little bit more with my colleagues here about a few points that would hopefully shed some light on what good applications look like, what sort of evidence do we look for, and perhaps give you some practical advice as well if you think about submitting next in the upcoming award cycles. I'm delighted to be joined by my colleagues, the judges of the Goodman Award Committee, and we will be sharing their perspectives in the upcoming few minutes. And I would like to also start with Graham. Graham is not just only a long-standing judge, but he's also a previous award winner. He led the submission for the Hong Kong police that was the police force that was granted the Goodman Award. And so my question to Graham would be, what distinguishes an organization that merely has a strategic plan from one that truly demonstrates excellence in strategy management? Over to you, Michael.
Thanks, Ahmed. It's exactly the right place to start, because many organizations assume that a well-written strategic plan is enough. It's not. A strategic plan may describe ambition, priorities, and intended actions, but excellence in strategic management and strategy is something much more comprehensive. It's visible, When an organization can demonstrate strength across the full range of practice, how it formulates strategies, how it translates that strategy into transformation, how it executes, how it engages stakeholders and teams, and how it governs performance and accountability. And that's why the Goodman framework is built around 5 dimensions, not just one. In other words, we're not looking for a document, we're looking for an entire system. A strong entry shows that strategy is integrated into the way the organization thinks, decides, aligns its resources, engages people, manages change, monitors its progress, and learns over time. It also shows that this is not about theory. The organization can point to actual practices, tools, routines, evidence, and results. That's why some entries are immediately more credible than others. You see, whether the strategy program is genuinely embedded or whether the submission has been assembled after the facts just to fit award categories. In fact, one of the core messages in the presentation is that excellent strategic programs have the Goodman criteria baked into the program structure from the outset, rather than fabricating a narrative later to match the award framework. So the difference is simple. A plan tells you what an organization hopes to do. Strategy excellence proves how the organization actually manages strategy in practice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Spot on. Can't be said any better. And really the distinction between a document or a plan versus a management system that is embedded in the fabric of the organization is exactly the standard that applicants need to understand and adhere to. Thank you very much, Graham. And let me now move on to Carol. Carol, when you review an entry, what kind of evidence make you confident the strategy process is real, embedded, not just written for submission?
Well, for me, credibility comes from alignment, and specifically, as Graham mentioned, evidence. So first, strong entries will make the 5 dimensions and 5 criteria easy to see. So the narrative headings, the supporting documents, and the visuals all point in the same direction. They're not conflicting. The judges should not have to infer where the strategy formation is or search or guess how innovation or learning is being demonstrated. So the strongest entries, in my opinion, make these elements explicit throughout the entire entry. Second, I look for evidence that the organization is telling a real operating story, as mentioned before, not using generic language. So strong entries will describe specific practices and how they conducted foresight, for example, or how they aligned stakeholders, or how they structured governance. So, and how they managed transformation, how they monitored performance, and what tools or methods support these efforts. Third, I would say the supporting materials matter a great deal because applicants can upload these demonstrated tools and illustrations. So effective entries will use professionally designed visuals, process flows, dashboards, strategic maps, scorecards, maybe some photos showing community engagement or employee engagement, etc., or summary diagrams that make the strategy system very tangible. So these materials explicitly advise applicants to organize attachments, and I would say the application process itself. Ask for these various attachments around the 5 dimensions. So take the opportunity to upload visual evidence as much as you can to demonstrate effective processes, outcomes, learning models, and innovative approaches. And then finally, I would say meaningful metrics are essential. I became much more confident in the past few years when judging, when an entry shows not only activity, but outcomes, results that indicate effectiveness, learning, innovation, and sustainability in the practice. Some of our entries have been excellent, but they haven't really been implemented yet. There hasn't been enough time to show proof of a program. Maybe the program was submitted in its first year, for example. Well, we encourage those applicants to reapply in years ahead so that they can actually show outcomes. So in summary, I trust an entry when its narrative, its visuals, its supporting materials, and the results all reinforce one another and show alignment. So when alignment is present, the strategy process really feels authentic and embedded.
Absolutely. And to your point, I mean, for the past, I don't know how many years, we've seen those organizations that did not make it in the first cycle. We made our recommendations to come back to us in the upcoming cycle, and they do actually come back with a much better, well-organized submission that demonstrates real results and impact. And I would also underscore that point about making evidence visible rather than just leaving it buried. That's especially important because it makes the job of the judges way easier, giving the wide score that submission deserves. So thank you so much, Carol, for that insight. And I want to move now to Anil. So Anil's some entries, again, Anil is a way long-standing, even before me, in the Goodman Award, one of the founders, I would say. So we've seen the involvement of the years, many entries. Some entries are clearly the product of serious effort, yet they still do not win. In your view, Anil, what is the most common reason a promising entry falls short?
Hey, Ahmad, always a great joy to work with the team. That's a great question. And I think my answer is going to echo some of what Carol and Graham had said earlier. It's not just one reason, there are more than one, there are three reasons actually. Often it is lack of maturity, lack of clarity, and lack of proof. So let me elaborate on each of these. So one issue is timing, which Carol had also mentioned. Some organizations have launched a strong strategy program, but it has not been in place long enough to demonstrate strategic transformation and implementation in a convincing way. For a 5-year strategic plan, it may be too early in year 2 or 3 to submit if the organization cannot yet show mature transformation and execution results. The second issue is that some entries describe many good activities, but they do not connect them into a coherent strategy management systems. So judges may see isolated examples, but not an integrated story across the 5 dimensions. So the narrative is very important to connect the dots. A third issue is insufficient evidence of outcomes. That is the effectiveness. It is relatively easy to describe workshops, meetings, frameworks, and intentions, get lost in the weeds. It is much harder and much more persuasive to demonstrate improvements in performance, capability, customer impact, transformation outcomes, governance quality, or other distinctive results. The strongest entries summarize meaningful metrics and make it easy to connect actions to results. And finally, some entries simply make the judges work too hard. Important evidence may be present, but it is not organized clearly. The language may not mirror the evaluation criteria. The visuals may be weak, and the narrative may not be structured in the same order as the entry form. That reduces confidence, even when the underlying program may be stronger than the submission suggests. So I would say this. Promising entries fall short not because the organization lacks effort, but because the submission does not yet prove excellence with enough maturity, structure, and evidence.
Indeed, and again, throughout the years, we've seen so many applications are primarily effort-driven, activity-driven, but when it comes to demonstrating results, demonstrating impact, which is to your point around readiness and the proof, not the plan itself, that is something that has been that we've always been looking for. So thank you so much, Anil, for that insight. And I would like now to move to Hilda. Hilda, I'm going to be asking you for a practical advice that you would give to any organization that is considering submitting their application to the Goodman Award. I would value your insight on that.
Okay, thank you, Sami. I guess my strongest advice would be this: make the judge's job easy. And the reason I say this is the strategy, our evaluation criteria is such that we have 5 dimensions. So it doesn't just start and stop at strategy formulation. What tends to happen sometimes when we receive the applications is we have everything, all the mud thrown at the wall. And then it's up to the judges to, get into the document and try to figure out what's the strategy here, what are the outcomes, what is the impact, and that sort of thing. What's the approach? Where's the learning? Where's the effectiveness? And where's the innovation? Make it clear for us, because when we are faced with submissions that are probably do not have a clear, approach as to how you've demonstrated excellence at each level of the 5 milestones, we may miss the mark. We may really miss your story. So make it clear. Make it easy to connect the dots yourself. Don't leave it to the judges, and make sure that it's very clear from within each milestone. What is the excellence that you're demonstrating? It should be obvious. The second practical sort of advice, I think, has been belabored already. Provide evidence that is. Don't make your entry text heavy or very abstract. Don't make it generic. Localize it as much as possible. Provide us, if you say, for example, you're demonstrating excellence in stakeholder engagement, show us the pictures. Show us the pictures where you have engaged with communities, fellow staff members, and that sort of thing, so that we can see your story coming to life. Results have been belabored by Anil. It's really important that we see results, because ultimately we are judging excellence in your strategy, not just your formulation of strategy. So we've got to see that this actually impacts your organizational goals and you're achieving the growth objectives that are outlined for your organization. So we're really, really keen on seeing outcomes. Your story may be good, but if we don't see the impact, then you may miss the mark. Lastly, and very, very important, and I think Graham talked about this, be authentic. Be authentic. Sami talked about this as well. And I think the recommendation or the advice that Graham gave is embed the entire process within your strategy roadmap process, so that you don't have to so that you don't have to cut and paste or force fit your impact or your outcomes within the framework that we have provided you. So ensure that you embed it before, so that you're authentic in the way you deliver your submission. So if I had to reduce this to one sentence, I would say that structure your submission so that excellence is obvious at each stage, because like Graham said, we do not just judge or evaluate based on one milestone, but we evaluate based on the entire 5 milestone submission. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Hilda. And indeed, make the judge's job easy is actually the most practical advice any applicant can take away. Bring the narrative to life, make it authentic, are all very, very insightful advices. So thank you so much, Hilda, for that. With this, I would like to thank all my colleagues for the insights. I hope that the discussion made it clear that the Goodman Award is not just about the rhetoric or the expression. It's not about the surface polish alone. They're important. That you would have something that is well designed and that creative is well articulated, but it's more important to consider the discipline of the practice itself, evidence-based excellence in the practice of strategy, judging excellence the organizations that stand out are those that can demonstrate such discipline in the strategy management practice clearly and critically. That's the key thing. For anyone that is considering an application, the message is straightforward, be authentic, be explicit, be evidence-driven, make your excellence easy to see. Thank you very much, and I would like now to hand it over to Dr. Karen Ford, who will take us deeper into the Goodman Award process and share practical guidance on what makes an excellent